Hello, hello, hello. It's Will. Thursday, January 9th, 2025, 1:22 a.m. So logically, it's still Wednesday in my book. I haven't gone to sleep yet. All right, this is the last part of my daily activities that I'm trying to do every day. So let's see. I did a very small amount of kanji, very small. Played with my new MIDI controller quite a bit. That was fun. Yeah, that was cool. Wrote a tiny bit on the book. Watched the StarCraft video, Artosa's cast, and this is not mentioning all the work stuff. Okay, I've been doing plenty of work stuff recently, and then today is the miniKanren hacking. I'm pretty tired because the last couple days I've really been pushing it work-wise, and but I still wanted to get all my stuff done. So I'm not sure how much energy I have. I put a lot of attention tonight into the MIDI controller, so I do feel like I've done something tonight, but right now my energy is not very high. So well, let's see. So let's just see how it goes. If anything interesting happens, keep going. Otherwise, we'll play with it quickly and we'll be done. So last time we modified the interpreter, the client's interpreter from Faster miniKanren, and we modify it slightly and added cons. Okay, so we had list and now we had cons, and we were making some quines and twines and all that. And I was trying to understand structurally, are there different types of structures? And so here's a twine that we were looking at that uses both cons and list, which I guess is kind of cute. I don't remember seeing that before. I guess it's sort of not really surprising. Probably just didn't look or didn't pay much attention. Normally we either pick cons or list, not both for quines. The interesting thing with quines is that from the way our search works and things like that, the default search, you actually can't generate quines with the bigger interpreters we have. For like the Barliman interpreter, that can't generate quines, not in any reasonable time, because the branching factor gets big on the search. So I think you'd have to do something different other than sort of this interleaving complete search. Even the Barliman heuristics, Barliman's got a little trickier search. That doesn't seem to be enough to generate quines. So actually quines are something that works well when you have tiny languages and the quine synthesis miniKanren style. So that's an interesting question, is could we maybe be more efficient? I don't know, maybe efficient's not the right word. Can we scale the size of the language? Yeah. So I guess here's a question. Okay. And then the last thing we did yesterday was just say, well, forget the fact that we have this kind of complicated looking expression. The point is that expression, which I'm just calling EXPR, is repeated. And so that appears 4 times in that particular twine. And also you can see that, yeah, we got to call list or we have an application. But expr appears twice in both P and Q. And every time expr appears, the number of quotes is different. So 0 quotes through 3 quotes. So it's kind of interesting structure. And then the question I had was, well, can you have other structures that don't look like that? Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if that's possible given the way the quotes work. So I can maybe think of how we might write a little query. Whoa, what was that? Was that Siri? Did I turn Siri on or something? Oh, that freaked me out a little. Siri? 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 Can you hear me?
I respect your privacy and only listen when you're talking to me. You can learn about Apple's approach to privacy on apple.com. By the way, if you have another request, you don't need to say Siri before you ask it.
Siri? Oh, wow. Okay, that freaked me out. So it turned out that I had an iPad that I guess had Siri turned on and listening even when the iPad was locked. And so I'm just talking, and then I hear this voice saying, "Mm-hmm." I'm like, I thought I was alone in this room. What's going on here? Okay. Wow. Technology. I turned that off. Whew. Let's do some nice simple twines. Okay, so anyway, here's my query. Maybe that was it, because I said something about I can write a query, and maybe Siri Either thought I was saying Siri or thought I was asking a question. Not sure. Anyway, bizarre. Okay. Maybe just start off with the quine here. That woke me up, by the way. that woke me up. It's like I'm much more awake than I was a couple minutes ago. You're freaking me out, Siri. All right, so here's our canonical quine. Let's replace _0 with x. Oops. Wait. Oh. Yeah, let me grab the... Forget the side conditions. Come on. I think I'm still freaked out by Siri. There we go. Okay, so if we're talking about expr, oops. Then that's the structure of it, right? So it's kind of like this, although here we have doubly quoted expr. So that's kind of interesting. I guess with that in mind, we can write the query a little differently. Let's try this. So I think that should give us the same result. Yeah, that's equivalent. Okay, great. Now, for twines at least, there's something of that structure. Is there something of that structure for quine? Yes. Nice. Okay, cool. Whoa, that's a much more interesting. Well, I don't know if I shouldn't say it's more interesting. I have no idea if it's more interesting yet. It's bigger, apparently. It looks bigger. Okay, let's get rid of the side conditions. Let's tear it apart into the two sub-expressions. Oh, wait, why am I tearing it apart? This is a single expression. This is we're doing. Okay. Okay, so this is the quine, and so you can see the expr part and the quote expr part. Okay, so what does the base expr look like? Okay. Okay, nested lambdas. And then, yeah, so this presumably is just that quoted. Looks like it. And then you have double quote, cross. Okay, so it's sort of fractal structure, right? So this, here, copy of it quoted, and then the entire thing. You have a copy of the entire thing, and it's doubly quoted. So my guess is that pattern repeats arbitrarily many times. You could probably use this to construct quines of any size, any number of quotes if you did it that way. All right, so that's kind of cool. All right, so now, so here's my question. Let's try and lead up to this. And I don't know the answer to this, by the way. So now we're going to have two expressions, okay? We have expr1 and expr2. So fine, we'll run that. That should just give us back a regular quine, which it does. Okay, great. But we're going to add a side condition that expr1 does not appear in expr2. Okay, so you can't just quote expr1 or doubly quote expr1. It can't appear in there at all. So it's structurally going to have to be different. And it can't just quote, expr1 can't just be quote of expr2 because this is an application, so that's not going to work, I think. So I don't think we have to do the absenta the other way. I don't think. So I have no idea if there's something of this form or not, or if it's going to... Whoa! Apparently there is. It's the fun and frustrating part of this. You don't know if it's going to come back in a millisecond or a trillion years or never. All right, so forget the side conditions. Let's just grab the quine and let's rename our underscore 0 to x like we always do. Okay, first of all, is this thing really a quine? Looks like it. Let's, trust but verify. Whoops. Yep, it's a quine, all right. In case it's not clear what I did. I said, okay, well, let's just quote that overall expression. That's supposedly a quine. Call it E, we'll let bind it, say it's E. And then we'll call Shea schemes a val, which is defined in the scheme. So we just eval that expression. That'll give us a value. And that better be the same thing as the original quoted expression according to equal question mark. And it is, so that's proof. Okay, so let's look at this thing. Cons, blah, blah, blah. Cons. Okay, so how do I feel about this? Well, it is true that it's a more interesting quine, I think, structurally, because it's not just expr applied to quote of expr. Okay. So here, all right. Okay, how does this thing work? How does this work? Cons of quote lambda x, cons of list. All right. Cons. Okay, so this is creating an improper list. Okay. Now, okay, so this part is shared, obviously, right? So that and that. No, notice that one, I mean, it's true there's an outer quote, but it's not like this is expr and quote of expr. It's just that the whole thing is quoted. So, yeah, structurally it is more interesting. Okay, what is this? It looks like an application of a function with no arguments. But our language doesn't support that. So I don't think that's what's happening. I think this is like just a little bit of syntax that's getting shoved around. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so that worked. That technique worked. Now, what we're not seeing, I mean, it's still there's shared structure between these two, and I don't. Yeah, they're probably. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to get rid of that shared structure entirely, and I certainly don't know how to express that with absento. How would you even express that? Absento maybe isn't expressive enough. I mean, we can kind of play whack-a-mole and add some more absentos, assuming a certain structure, maybe, which is basically what we did. We in this query, we're saying, hey, this thing's gonna be of this structure, and so we can do this expr trick. But in some sense, we didn't have a right to assume that the quine would look like that. That's just saying, hey, we want a quine of this shape. Okay. Huh. Oh, that's kind of cute. I haven't seen this quine before, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know if we could push that further in an interesting direction. Obviously, this term doesn't appear in this term, so putting another absento going the other direction shouldn't affect anything. Let's just make sure that's true. It's pretty fast, by the way. Let me time it. Okay, 46 milliseconds. All right, so let's add the other absento. I don't think this will. Okay, so it's a little slower, 57 milliseconds. Looks like the same quine. I mean, same twines. So that's kind of cute. Now I can imagine maybe a nicer version of this would be to put a dot here. Okay, it's slower now. 1/10 of a second. Is that the same one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think that's a nicer form of the query. Let's see if we can get anything else that's interesting. Okay. Here's the second one. This looks like the same sort of structure, except now we have a list out here. Okay, so we went from cons list to list cons list. Okay. Cons con still looks like the same structure to me. I think that the cons and list thing sort of didn't bias that much. Make sure this is really doing what I think it is. Yep. Okay, this is officially annoying. I'm gonna comment out the cons. Let's do a Q3. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this cons. Okay. Hash semicolon comments out an entire expression. All right. So this took 1/10 of a second before. Yeah, 11 milliseconds. So, it's 10 times faster after getting rid of that cons. All right. Well, it's true it's not just expr and quote expr. That part's true. Can we get any more interesting structures? Are they all going to look like this? So far they are. Can we get 20 of them? Yep. All right, these seem pretty boring so far. I mean, I guess the first one's okay, but otherwise they all look the same. Let's just do another example or two. Let's try something else. Yeah, I think this might get us in trouble. Whoa, what was that? Is that really a quine? Looks like. Huh. So I guess we just sort of forced all the interesting part to be in expr 1, which makes sense. All right. Okay, now let's really try to get in trouble. We say no lambda in expr 1. I don't think that's even possible in this language because we don't have. If we had let rec or something like that. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Okay, let's try another experiment. Well, thank you, Siri, for waking me up and scaring me. Okay. Let's do something like this. Oops. And I guess if we want to, probably no harm in putting a symbol constraint. All right, no problem. Standard Quine. Now we can try this. I'm getting tired of these long names, E1 and E2. I guess it occurs to me messing around with this that these could be great examples for the book as I'm doing these little experiments night after night. I've got a chapter in the book that's a placeholder for quines, so some of these could go in there. All right, what do we have here? That's kind of interesting. Okay, so this expression here, oops, that expression looks the same as this expression. The second occurrence is quoted, but then we have this structure where we have a list of that in then list this quote of quote, and then this structure. So that's okay. So that's this. Okay, so we have a quote of that thing, and then we have that thing. Okay, and that thing appears here. List of list. Okay. Well, structurally, it seems a little more interesting. All right, let's try for a second one. $20. Look like similar structures to me. So I think the subcento technique and giving a little structure, helps some. We can break up sort of the most boring quines, but from the way subcento works and the way these quines seem to work, I don't know of a better way to do it. I mean, I guess we could maybe write some sort of recursive relation that has subcentos recursively or something like that. The problem, okay, there's a potential problem with that, even if such a quine exists. I'm not sure if it does. I suspect it might not, but even if such a quine exists, I mean, I suspect it probably doesn't exist. But even if it does, that recursive relation isn't going to be lazy. If we write a recursive relation, I think we'd have to write some new constraint or something. And I'm not even sure what that would mean, what that constraint would be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, well, this is fun. Actually, I've enjoyed these little sessions, these little hacking sessions, quite a bit. Let me try to save some stuff here. I've enjoyed these a surprising amount, actually. Especially since this is like the last thing I do before going to bed. So I'm usually quite tired. So it's like, well. Wait. No, it's not what I'm. Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay. Save that transcript. Sure. Okay, so we save those. How to explain? I was thinking about this a little this morning. These little sessions feel different to me than anything I've ever done, actually. I don't know how to explain it. There's something about my explaining the process, but sort of explaining it to myself, but not explaining it to myself, like as if someone else were here. It's like very rubber ducky. And because I've made enough of the videos now, I don't really feel self-conscious about it. It feels playful in a different way than my normal solo playful explorations into miniKanren. And I think the difference is having to explain out loud, I think makes a big difference. And also something about making the video. Like I'll say, oh, okay, well, maybe you could do this. And then I'm like, well, how about I do that? How about I actually do that? For some reason, this reminds me of the commentary to the Bourne Identity, where the director, I think I'm getting this right, is like Doug Liman, the director, I guess, had been used to making indie movies like Go, and is talking to the casting person for Bourne, and he would say things like, okay, for this character, I'm thinking of like a Brian Cox style, someone like Brian Cox. And then the casting director would be like, well, how about Brian Cox? I guess Doug Liman just, working on these indie films, just like hadn't thought about stuff like that. It's like, how about someone like Matt Damon? How about Matt Damon? I don't know. The commentary was interesting from that standpoint, but that's kind of how I feel making these videos. It's like, oh yeah, and you could, maybe play some game with Absento. You could. It's sort of like a throwaway comment, and maybe it'd be a footnote if I were writing it in a paper or book. Exercise left to the reader. And it's like, wait, hold on. I'm playing around here. I'm having fun. Why don't I just try it? This is maybe like an exercise I give to students. Like, well, wait, why should the students have all the fun? Why can't I play around with this? So There's something about it. I haven't put my finger on it yet, but it just feels different. I quite like it. These are actually, of all the videos I've made, these have their own special charm. I don't know if I'd say they're my favorite, but they're becoming my favorite. You know, sort of. I don't know. I wouldn't have guessed that in a way. Late night, completely exhausted, just like playing around with miniKanren. Actually, that's not that different from me in grad school, you know, to be honest. Late night coffee shop, or when I was working in Utah, you know, Salt Lake coffee break, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., close at 3 a.m., depending on the day. And I'd be there hacking often, just playing around, messing around. But somehow this still feels different, and in a way it feels more fun. I'm explaining it, but I'm going at my own pace. If there were someone sitting here next to me, they might get bored, or maybe I'd have to over-explain. Now here, if I want to, I just like silent and I can do some stuff for a while. But if I want to, I can explain. I don't know. I like it. I want to see where this goes. And it does occur to me that if I were to do this, you know, 365 days, there'd be a lot of experimentation. And, you know, I guess one thing that's interesting is that this is so far playing around in the small. Okay, so when I've done miniKanren hacking more recently, it tends to be bigger things. Like even Midori Kanren, that was like some pretty serious hacking to try to get that to work. And like the nominal logic stuff recently, and some things with search, and you know, like all of these have been trying to tackle kind of big issues, or big problems, or big tasks. I mean, not super huge, okay, but still, you know, they weren't just like playing around where, you know, I can write 5 lines of code. They were significantly more complicated, like, you know, 2 orders of magnitude more complicated than what we just did. Maybe 3 or 4 orders of magnitude more complicated. So there's something about this. No, so I don't know how this works for something bigger, but I like the sort of meandering part of it. I guess that's the part, right? I'm not really starting with any sort of agenda. I'm just, oh, let's open up that file and take a look. I guess I do like a recap of what we did last time, and then that generates some idea or spark. And then I play around with it. Like, don't know. I don't want to make too big a deal out of it. Feels like it's kind of a small deal, but it's fun. I guess I just haven't done this for a long time. But like I said, even when I was doing it all the time, there's something different about making the video. I like it. Okay. This is becoming my favorite part of the day in a sense. I think it's fun. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.